Insights, solutions, and networking all come together at RSA Conference. Join a global cybersecurity community at rsaconference.com/ITSP-MAG24. SquareX helps organizations detect, mitigate, and threat hunt web attacks happening against their users in real time. With its innovative browser-native security product, SquareX safeguards enterprise users from a spectrum of web-based threats, encompassing malicious files, websites, scripts, and compromised networks. Learn more at sqrx.com.
Marco.
Sean.
I've seen your itinerary.
You've seen it?
I've seen it. It's online.
Oh, privacy. I can't do anything anymore.
It's all right there. I know what time you're leaving, the airports, rental car.
That must have been my AI assistant that didn't protect my data. But it got a beautiful job in booking everything exactly the way I wanted to.
Right? And I think
you have to balance, Sean.
I was confused though. You're going to Helsinki.
I wish. Well, actually, I'm going to Europe after, but not to Helsinki, unfortunately.
I know. We don't get to go there, but our guest gets to come to California for RSA conference. Anu Talus, thank you for being part of the conversation today.
Thank you for the invitation. It's my pleasure.
And for bearing with us as Marco and I be silly. But this is an important conversation, and I want to congratulate you on being part of RSA conference. This is part of our coverage on the Chats on the Road to RSA conference. And you have a session there, a panel, where you're looking at data privacy, of course. And we're excited to learn a little bit more about that topic from you and what folks can expect to hear and your overall view of data privacy. We're going to connect it to, you guessed it, AI as well, I think, right? So we'll dig in a little bit to that. Before we get into that, though, a few words about who Anu is and, maybe a brief view of how you arrived at the EDPB as well.
Well, if I start by introducing myself, I am the Finnish Data Protection Ombudsman, or Information Commissioner, if you prefer that. And I'm the chair of the EDPB, so the European Data Protection Board. So it is a dual role. And starting with the EDPB, what we do, what the EDPB is, the European Data Protection Board. It is an EU body which brings together all the national data protection authorities. So all the EU and EEA information commissioners to make together decisions and to find a harmonized approach how to apply to data protection legislation in EU. And it has a competence, for example, to make binding decisions. So it's an EU body which brings together national data protection authorities with the competencies to make binding decisions. We have several different tasks. We, for example, provide guidance, and this is something we've been doing a lot during the past, let's say, 5-6 years. Because I don't know, perhaps you've heard of the GDPR. So the GDPR became applicable about 6 years ago. So this is why we have been focusing a lot on providing guidance in the past 5 years and ensuring the consistent application throughout the European Union. We also have a role as a dispute resolution mechanism, as a dispute resolution body. So in cases where the national data protection authorities, the national information commissioners, are not able to agree on a subject matter among ourselves, it will be then brought to the European Data Protection Board, to the EDPB, for a decision, and those decisions are binding. So this is the other role, and then also we, for example, provide advice for the European Commission. So when the European Commission is, for example, is working on a legislative proposal, this is when we would provide them advice. And examples of that would be digital euro, and then, for example, the AI Act. But this is also one of the tasks of the board.
So you made a pretty nice overview, and it every time you touch on something, I'm thinking with AI, this got more complicated. And so a few questions that I'm sure we're going to ask you, and I'm going to start with how is affecting the GDPR this very fast evolution of artificial intelligence?
Well, you probably know about the AI Act, which was quite recently, agreed on. Well, starting with the GDPR, it is drafted in a technologically neutral way. And how the GDPR works with the new digital legislation, it sets the grounds. It sets the ground for all the new legislation which have been developed now in the past years. The AI Act is not the only one. There are also other EU level legislation which has been agreed on in the past years. But of course, the AI Act, it's a very exhaustive piece of legislation, and it has a lot of overlaps with the GDPR, which is the law which regulates the processing of personal data and the data privacy. So the GDPR sets also the grounds for the AI Act, and even when the AI Act is applied, the GDPR must be applied at the same time when it is about processing of personal data. So quite often when we are talking about AI and AI applications, it also includes a processing of personal data. There might be models which are entirely based on processing of personal data, or at least the application would contain some processing of personal data. So when the AI Act is applied, it must also go hand in hand with the GDPR. What is very interesting here at this very moment, because it has quite recently been agreed on, is that who will be the ones who will enforce the AI Act. And this is, of course, for us, from the regulators' perspective, a very important topic, because what we want as an EDPB is that there will not be fragmented enforcement. And now it is for all the member states to decide who will be the competent authority in each member state to enforce the AI Act. And by so far, many of the data protection authorities who now supervises the application of the GDPR have actually already enforced AI. So when there is processing of personal data at stake, and when you are enforcing a GDPR or the law enforcement directive or the national implementation laws of that, you are also enforcing AI related matters. So there is a lot of experience already gained by the national supervisory authorities when it comes to AI, and it would be very important to get this experience in use when it will be decided who are the competent authorities to enforce the AI Act.
So many questions, because one part of me thinks having the GDPR there as a layer might help with the AI Act, certainly with the protection of personal information as part of looking at the role of AI in business and society. But then just the world of AI is so broad. I'm thinking things like collecting publicly available information and creating potentially private-like information, so deep fakes and misinformation and those types of things can make it really complex. I don't know if you can share how broad the AI Act and GDPR go in terms of things of those nature, or the scenarios like that where, I guess misinformation or wrong information or deepfake types information come around.
Well, yes, there are a lot of possible scenarios. I do agree on that. Some of these scenarios would involve already some aspects of processing of personal data. Of course, the AI Act then will bring another layer on the top of it. I cannot really go into details yet. We have quite a general approach at this stage, and we are also very much focusing on the enforcement and to this question to avoid the fragmented enforcement. This is what we are focusing very much at this stage. But what would be important is that when there is an overlap, and if there are different authorities who are enforcing this, it should. Well, this is basically what I've been keep saying here. You should have the same outcome. You should have the same approach, regardless of who is the authority enforcing the AI Act. And here I think that regardless of who will eventually then be the competent authority to enforce the AI Act, there will be a lot of cooperation between the data protection authorities. So there will certainly be an important role for the data protection authorities to play also in those cases. So yes, I can see that there are many different scenarios you could play with when we are talking about the protection of personal data and AI.
So in the panel that you're going to be part of at RSA conference, which of course will give more information for people that want to come and participate in the audience, you're actually sitting down with some big players in the AI industry, and I'm interested in knowing what stage are we in, and when you talk about ethics in AI and how the consumers, which is something that, of course, the GDPR has clearly mined, probably more than in this side of the world, in the United States. Where are we standing in the perception and the way that we want to really protect these people that are starting to use AI? Maybe they're already using AI and they don't know about it. And how your conversation with this player is from a legislative perspective?
Well, if I start first with what new the AI Act will bring to what we have now, and then perhaps I will go in more to the ethics and of the assessment of different systems. One of the core novelties of the AI Act is that some AI systems are not allowed at all because they are not in accordance with some core values, some core EU values. And an example of this would be a social scoring. So this type of limitations are set in place to protect the people, not only citizens, but the people also on more general level. What is of course always very important is to and this also comes from the GDPR to have to conduct a thorough assessment of the impacts. So to have a thorough assessment of the risks involved in the processing, and this is also something where then the AI Act will have a different layers, different ranks of risks depending on the type of processing we have at stake. So. Of course, it's always what is important here. It's always to find the right balance, because at the same time now we are very much focusing here how we should be quite prudent with the AI, but at the same time it can also bring quite a lot to the to what we have at the moment. It's a very valuable way to improve many things. For example, let's in many different fields. So it's always about balancing and assessing to carry through a very thorough risk assessment, so that you can actually do the balancing. You need to see and to be very honest with the risks, to be able to balance those risks with the application we have at stake. So this is one of the reasons why this is very interesting, and I think this is also it is same with the protection of personal data. It's not about banning something entirely, but it is about finding the ethical way to use it and to have it developed. So this is why I quite like this field. There is always something new. You're never in a ready-made world. So this is I think one of the perks in this field.
So I want to dig into the panel in one second, but I have one more question, because we're talking about risk, we're talking about ethics, we're talking about technology, we're talking about rules and laws, and to me that paints a picture of a lot of different roles of folks. And I know in the States, I feel that we struggle with bringing together researchers and security and privacy and politicians and lawmakers and enforcers, and the list goes on, in order to come up with something that's meaningful and enforceable, and people know why, right? There's no question of why we're doing this. Can you describe how that works for you? That might be a big open question, but maybe just a brief overview of, do you have those folks involved so we can understand this is how AI works, this is how technology surrounding AI works? Because you just maybe described some scenarios of, in healthcare, we can achieve this, but only if we understand GDPR and the AI Act in these scenarios, and bringing these people together.
Well, normally when Commission makes a proposal for legislation, there is normally a stakeholder hearing in the beginning. Now I don't know the details of what has about all the hearings which have taken place for this specific piece of legislation, but this is also something that we can do, for example, in the EDBB when we are working on guidelines. So we can have a stakeholder hearing to hear a different angles, different approaches for a certain topic. This is the legislative in the legislative process. It is of course even more important to have hearings and the views from different angles to find the best possible balance there.
Well, it's definitely important to bring together, and this is a conversation in cybersecurity we have all the time, and bring in together the legislators and the people that make the rules and people that make it enforce. and the innovators in the industry that are always trying to, by definition, pushing on the limits of what they are allowed to do, because they may give an advantage on the market, something interesting for people to jump on, and we see this all the time. So it's about balancing a lot of different things. So as we're closing here, I know this is the first time that you're actually going to be at RSA conference, and you're going to find a lot of cybersecurity people there. And what are you expecting maybe from this conversation that you're going to have as a panelist, and maybe from the people that you meet there? What are you going to bring back to Europe?
Well, this is actually, I think that what we just talked about just now a minute ago is also very much what I'm looking for from the conference, to have a little bit, to see and hear a little bit different angle, a little bit different perspective, and to be able to engage in those conversations. This is something what I very much value, and this is actually also something what I like in my role in the EDPB chair. I very much like to listening to different members and the different angles of the members, and then trying to find the best possible solution for that. But this is very, very much what I'm looking for from this conference, to have and hear a different angle to the topics which we actually have in common.
Well, it's an exciting time, no question about that, and lots to do. So I'm appreciative for the work you're doing at EDPP and bringing your knowledge to the U.S. and bringing your findings from the U.S. back to Europe, so we can be a little more consistent. I think you used that word earlier, and so I'm excited for that. And your session, it's a panel. It's called AI Governance and Ethics, a discussion with the big players. It's Thursday, May 9th at 8:30 in the morning, local time, of course. You have Chief Privacy Officer, and head of privacy and General Counsel. A good panel to have a good chat about. So I'm encouraging everybody to go and listen. If people in the U.S. think that this isn't coming to the U.S., think differently. We might be a little behind Europe in terms of privacy regulations and things like that, but we see it coming. So this is an important conversation to listen to, and I encourage everybody to attend the event, attend that session. And Anu, I want to thank you for joining us today, and for making the time, and I wish you a safe journey to San Francisco. And
thank you. Look forward my trip there.
Yes, well, and look forward to meeting you there as well. And thanks, Marco, for a good chat. Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of On Location with Sean and Marco, Chats on the Road to RSA Conference. Still one of many episodes coming. Lots to talk about. Data protection, AI, one of them. So thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll catch you there.
SquareX helps organizations detect, mitigate, and threat hunt web attacks happening against their users in real time. With its innovative browser-native security product, SquareX safeguards enterprise users from a spectrum of web-based threats, encompassing malicious files, websites, scripts, and compromised networks. Learn more at sqrx.com. Insights, solutions, and networking all come together at RSA Conference. Join a global cybersecurity community at rsaconference.com/ITSP Mag 24.